us and sharing that insight. Now we move on to our next story. Iran has issued a warning of retaliation following a new UN nuclear report that has deepened tensions with Europe. The International Atomic Energy Agency reports that Iran now possesses over 9,200 kilograms of enriched uranium, more than 45 times the limit set in the 2015 nuclear deal. This uranium is enriched to 60%, close to weapons-grade levels. Iran maintains that its nuclear program is peaceful, but Britain, France, and Germany have warned that sanctions could be reimposed if security is jeopardized. Iran's foreign minister urged the IAEA to prevent political abuse of the report, which Tehran has rejected. Iran says it will respond to any inappropriate actions from Europe. The standoff highlights escalating pressure over Iran's nuclear ambitions. Meanwhile, the US has sent a new nuclear deal proposal to Iran, confirmed to have been delivered through Omani diplomats. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said President Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff submitted a detailed and acceptable offer. Iran states it will respond based on national interests and the rights of its people. The offer comes ahead of a planned sixth round of talks, though no date or location has been set. Now we have guests joining us live. Shruti Das Gupta, she's a geopolitical expert. Thank you, Shruti, for joining us today. Is Iran's nuclear threat more political posturing or real, or is it a real military escalation?
Greetings, Asuma, and thank you for having me on your show. Iran is, of course, stockpiling. It has two mines which provide uranium to it. And from what the report states, that's 400 kgs, which is, as you said, about 40% of what it should be having. And the 60% enrichment of it ensures that if Iran decides to wreak havoc on the world, it'll just take about 2 weeks to completely enrich it and empower 10 nuclear warheads. So Iran, if the report stands true, then Iran is in a position of power which is going to bother the USA, because Iran is the last proxy of Russia in the Middle East. The previous proxy was Syria, which was taken off by the regime change that happened, and now they've placed Al-Qaeda terrorist Al-Shara, formerly known as Al-Jolani, and Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorist in power over there. So they have cut off the lines there, and through Syria they have ensured that the Hezbollah-Lebanon coalition also collapses, and hence US managed to reach a kind of peace pact with that section. They are no longer firing at each other, the US Marine as well as the Hezbollah from Lebanon, right? So they've kind of closed that chapter down. And this is all happening towards Israel as the center focus of this entire conflict. Israel is very aggressively posturing, if I understand correctly, towards Iran, and Iran is the last proxy of Russia. So if Iran is positioned in a way where it is under sanctions and has to bow down to whatever the US demands, which it did not a couple of weeks ago, the nuclear talks had come to no conclusive end, and the US had walked out. So this energy report could be a way of twisting Tehran into signing what the US wants it to sign. So I do not know how true this is, because I know US uses these reports very non-transparently. If you remember, during the Iraq war, there were talks of weapons of mass destruction, biological warfare weapons, and it never came to fore. There were no such weapons found once Iraq was conquered. So sending out reports when you are failing at dealing with a nation on one-on-one basis is a tactic that US often uses. And I'm not really sure of how accurate this entire report is going to be. Though Iran is very correct in its posturing and telling that this report should not be used politically against it, because the veracity of it cannot be verified until unless somebody actually walks into Tehran and does that. And Iran's not going to permit anybody inside its zone, specifically of this coterie, which is headed by the US.
And Shruti, building on that, what are the implications of a country holding uranium stockpiles far above previously agreed limits?
Well, the point entire comes back to what this report, how accurate this report is, whether you trust the agency that is generating it. And what is the reason why suddenly when Iran and US talks on nuclear points break down, and a couple of days ago, Pakistan, as a proxy of China, went ahead and Shehbaz Sharif was speaking in Iran, and he was telling them that as long as it's for peaceful use, they are okay with Iran stockpiling nuclear enriched uranium. So this entire narrative turns into a very different twist, basically saying that the China-Russia coalition is helping Iran to stay viable in a very hostile environment surrounded by puppet governments that have been installed by US. So as a result, this entire energy report has a lot of gray zones because we do not understand who has released it, how they have measured it, and how true is it. For all you know, tomorrow if it turns into an all-out war and they find that there was no enriched uranium, especially at the levels that have been reported, you'll find that another nation has been brought to its knees just because it did not agree to what the US and the other E3 countries, as in Germany, France, and UK, have find acceptable. So understanding whether it is actually at that level or not is very important right now.
Thank you very much, Shruti Dasgupta, for sharing that insight. Now we move on to our next story. A diplomatic spat has erupted between India and Pakistan over the Indus Waters Treaty.